John Youshaei used to work at YouTube, used to work at Instagram, but now he runs his own channel where he brings creators not only the best advice on the platform, but takes creators behind the scenes of projects like Beast Wars, Sidemen's Charity, and a whole bunch more. Steve McLendon currently works at YouTube. He runs the podcasting team where they're bringing all the podcasts, all the video podcasts especially, to life on the platform. I'm Rene Ritchie. I've been podcasting and creating since 2008, and now I work inside YouTube so I can bring all of us together to talk podcasting with podcasters and a podcast PM in a podcast.
I like that.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, it is crazy to be here because I remember when I was at YouTube, we helped launch the Creator Insider channel. So now to be here with you guys is a full circle. So thanks for having me.
Oh, no, thank you for being here. So creator, podcaster, is there a difference? Are there creator podcasters, podcast creators? Do people is it blurry?
I think, obviously the podcast is a format, but we've done so much with our interviews, and now we do behind the scenes, which is, a walk and talk podcast, in my opinion, like a studio tour, where it's kind of like you have to hit your marks, you have to think about the questions relating to the environment. So it all kind of blends together, but we've been trying to push the boundary with a lot of our formats on YouTube, especially.
Yeah, what are you seeing? Because I started in 2008, and right away I had a YouTube channel where I did phone reviews and a podcast channel where back in the day we had 4 Ustream windows and we'd record those and then add the audio and upload to YouTube. It was the same thing for me. How are you seeing it?
Yeah, for sure. What we see is the line between a creator and a podcaster is blurring, in part because podcasters are creators and creators oftentimes are podcasters, and the dynamics are the same. They're looking to build audiences, they're looking to connect, they're looking to tell the story, whatever kinds of podcasts that they produce. Oftentimes, they look a lot like creators. And, I think YouTube's success in this space and the reason why you see so many users embracing podcasting on YouTube is because, that line is so blurry, and you see many of the top creators embracing podcasting as a way to really go deep with their audiences and connect and kind of express themselves in different ways than maybe they do in video.
Yeah, and vice versa, because a lot of big podcasters have come to YouTube where they now do clips, they do shorts, and they take advantage of the other platform features. And I find that, so my initial problems with podcasting back in the day were, I think, threefold.
Oh, Renee's about to call somebody out right now.
Well, no, I'm going to call out the platform because
Okay,
back then,
all right.
Video was so expensive. I forget the math, but it was thousands and thousands. Unless you had a CDN as a sponsor, just hosting the video was prohibitively expensive. Also, there was no real discovery. If I did a podcast on Google I/O and Marquez Brownlee did a podcast on Google I/O, maybe our shows would be at the bottom as recommended shows, but there was no episode level, no atomic level discovery. But on YouTube, that episode could be, I could be in the sidebar for Marquez, and someone who watched his could go, hey, I want to see that other take, which is a massive discovery platform. But then also, with traditional podcasting, no one's going to scroll back 3 months, 6 months, a year to see older episodes. But I feel on YouTube, if something is relevant, it could be 5 years old and it'll again pop up in the sidebar or up next, and it gives us a whole back catalog we never had before.
Oh yeah, and I think a lot about the people who may be watching and listening to this who are starting podcasts, because it wasn't too long ago that I started my podcast. And to me, video and podcasts go hand in hand, because I remember my first interview, I'm like, okay, we're getting 4 cameras. We flew out. And I was just like, we are not just doing this audio only because, okay, I want to do more with the intro. And now we have movie trailer editors doing our intros. I was like, I want to do stuff with the clips, be able to take it and piece it together and be able to draw people back. And this is just when Shorts was starting to take off. And it just gives you more flexibility for what to do with that content versus, a lot of other podcasts may just start audio only, and then that bar to try to get discovered, let alone, without all of YouTube's recommendation, if you're not doing videos, way harder. So to me, the two have to go hand in hand.
For sure. Audio is so hard to get discovered. Audio is amazing when you're connected to it and it's in your earbuds. But how do you discover that? How do you find that? Video is actually the most effective way. And this is why I think, when you talk to podcasters or you talk to YouTube creators, not doing video just feels like you're missing out on a huge swath of the audience and this opportunity to get found. podcasts demand a lot of time on behalf of the user, and being able to see the person, being able to sample that, being able to share that with somebody else. Video facilitates all of that in a way that audio really doesn't and hasn't. And discoverability for sure is really the top problem for RSS podcasts. Like, you have to subscribe to this thing. Yeah. You might not know the creator. You might not know that content. On YouTube, you can try it and see whether it connects with you. And I think that's been really powerful to drive discovery. It lets people try new shows, it lets people sample the content, and then they find the content that they love and they deeply connect with it.
One thing that you said that I found really interesting is, as podcasts grew, like in the early days, it really felt like a couple friends talking about their hobby. Like, especially it was like talking about their phones or talking about, like, that was like the early generation of podcasting. But then you started to get like NPR style produced podcasts, which were very much like radio shows. Like, podcasts became like the new radio.
They literally were radio shows.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And then like what happened is, I think creators who were used to producing for YouTube did exactly what you said, which is, it's not just cold open or like little light banter or like coming up next. It was like, I'm gonna do a hook, do an intro, grab attention, cut the beginning so people know what, like, they started thinking about the things that a YouTube creator thinks about.
Yeah. Oh, big time. Like, and to me, there's nothing wrong with like audio only, but like giving people the option. So if they want to like listen to it on background, they have that option. But for us, when we go into our edit for our videos and for our podcast, I always tell my team is like, by the end of an episode of our show of Created with John Youshaei, our audience's notepad's going to be filled. Are they going to be learning something such that, we have a lot of graphics on screen, we have bullet points, like make it easy for them to take notes. And a lot of that comes visually. We even have segments on our show where we'll wheel in a dry erase board and I'll ask creators to draw your income. And like, they'll say, okay, 32% is AdSense. I made this much money from brand deals, from affiliate. And that's a very like visual medium. Yeah. Obviously, you can still understand it.
Yep.
If you're just listening on audio, which is always like a test that we run through when we're trying to experiment with new segments in our show and in our podcast. But yeah, I think a lot of that is like, can you have something that fills a notepad of an audience member? Because to us, is like, is it a podcast? Is it a conversation? Or is it really more like a masterclass that we're trying to have with the different creators that come on our show?
Over-delivering on value.
Trying.
Yeah.
We certainly hear that from podcasters all the time. Like, the video is really just purely additive, right? Sometimes you want to see the expression of the person who said that really funny thing, or, to your point, like, you're referencing something that might be a visual or a graphic that you add in after the fact, and that really just deepens the audience's understanding of the topic.
I think a good example of this is we had an interview with Mr. Beast, is nearing about 3 million views now, and for that one, I prepared 30 cutouts as part of my questions. Like, one of them was, we went through his past 50 videos and I organized them by the different formats to just talk about how he thinks about ideas and which ones to repeat versus not. Others was I prepared a lot of his past thumbnails and just try to get a sense of why did he do this versus that. And we do that for a lot of creators because I think there's a lot of stats that show that the way that people learn is threefold. Either one, visually, two, audio, or three, by workshopping, by actually doing something. And most people's, visually is one of the top ways that people consume information. I mean, isn't it? I feel like it's like a meme. Everyone's like, oh, I'm a visual learner. Yeah, majority of the population is. So
that's right.
We try to think about that as we put together our show, especially.
And so speaking of visuals, you touched on thumbnails. Yeah. Something that when I talk to traditional audio podcasters, they oftentimes, the thumbnail's the afterthought. Yeah. And
they might album art.
Exactly, they might just use their show art. Can you talk a little bit about
such a pet peeve? Oh my god! Yeah, so you're saying when they kind of use the headshot.
That's right.
Yeah. They pull a headshot from LinkedIn and they put in their freaking thumbnail,
or just their show art.
Yeah. Oh Lord, yeah. Well, I mean, how deep do we want to go down this rabbit hole? I have a lot of thoughts about thumbnails when it comes to podcasts.
There is almost a standard now where it's either the host or the guest with some text and then the keyword highlighted.
Yeah, that drives me crazy. If you're listening to this and you do that, please do not do that. You're shooting yourself in the foot when it comes to your thumbnail and all that.
So what should they do?
Okay, yeah. Well, first off, I think do not take their headshot like outside of the context of the conversation, to any extent that you can. Like sometimes you'll record and maybe the context isn't, or like the lighting isn't great. Maybe you're not getting a perfect shot. Maybe they're in and out. You don't have time for like photos. But we always try to have like somebody doing photo in addition to video, or a photographer on set to get thumbnail photos. And I feel like the days of like, you know, like the open mouth, like crazy like thumbnails has like come to an end, and we want to see the deep in thought expression. Like it, like if people want to reach out, I could DM like the different variations and different photos we look at for our thumbnails, but we probably are looking at the most minute and subtle facial expression differences when it comes to our podcast thumbnails, and then focusing on the guest. And then we're trying to like create like some kind of, you know, like intrigue with what their facial expression is. Or like if they're having like a moment where, you know, in our interview with Danny Duncan, like he's never really cried on camera. And I couldn't believe that he did. And so the title for that one was YouTube's $150 million bad boy. And then one of the initial thumbnails, we're now testing different ones, like had just like a shot of him like teary-eyed. And so it's like, wait, the bad boy's emotional? Wait, what's going on here? I've never seen the side of him. And those subtleties, I think, are important because people don't realize how smart audiences are and how fast people can consume and understand emotion. So
I have a question, and this is for both of you. Do you do thumbnails for podcasts differently than you would do a thumbnail for like a non-interviewee or like another kind of video? And the reason I'm asking is because one of the questions we get most often is, if I have a podcast, if I start a podcast, should I put it on my main channel or should I put it on a different channel? And the advice we usually give is same audience, same channel, different audience, different channel. But some people prefer to play with thumbnails to do that differentiation.
I think it depends on how big your channel is currently when you're making that decision. But to me, we think about it as much as we can without like directing the conversation, because it's, you know, we could prepare so much, and I could prepare like, you know, 10 pages of notes for an interview, but it may go in a different direction, and I have to embrace that and let it go there. But I want to walk in at least with an idea of what that thumbnail will be or what that visual is gonna like be on there. A perfect example is I recently interviewed the Stokes twins. And I'll give a shout out to the YouTube Trends team, Kevin Alaka. They had a Trends report where the Stokes twins were number 2 in the U.S. And I saw that, and I was like, I'm using that for our interview. So I would ask them about like how did you guys become the second biggest channel? What do you guys do? And that was kind of like part of my initial questions, because my thought, if it led to a meaningful enough conversation, was something along the lines of like how the Stokes twins built YouTube's second biggest channel. And then we started talking about how they were homeless for many years and how like they would, you know, eat samples at Costco and all this stuff. I'm like, oh my God. So then it was like, from homeless to YouTube's second biggest channel is kind of the title we're testing right now. And that's obviously something that you have to prepare for with your questions, as well as overall packaging and thumbnail, and then seeing where it goes from there. So yeah, there is a lot of thought that we put into it. And and we have a whole like elements that we use that, again, happy to share with anybody listening. But yeah, there's a total method to it.
The other thing we hear, though, is like attention spans are getting shorter. People keep saying this. I think maybe because they're seeing a lot of 1 minute, 3 minute shorts or 5 minute, 15 minute long form videos. But we're also seeing the success of podcasts, like 2 hour, 3 hour podcasts. So how much of it is like attention spans getting shorter versus attention spans getting more competitive versus the ability for podcasts and even live streams to be eyes optional? Like you can watch them attentively, you can put them on and cook or work out or do anything else.
Yeah, I think podcasts are really interesting because they fit into parts of your life where you may or may not be watching, right? So, you know, and we can talk more about the living room or televisions coming up. But one of the things I think about is oftentimes you engage with your favorite podcast when you're doing something else, right? You're cooking, you're commuting, like in my case, or, you know, you're out walking your dogs or things like that. And podcasts can kind of fit into your life. But I think the common thread is creating content that is really compelling for your audience. Whether you're a short form creator or whether you're a podcaster doing a 3-hour-long podcast, at the end of the day, you need to be authentic, you need to be yourself, and you need to really connect with your audience. Your audience is not going to spend time with you if you're not creating interesting content, whether it's 60 seconds or whether it's 3 hours.
Yeah, it can't be about what you, the creator, wants. It has to be about you making the audience want it.
Oh yeah, anytime I hear somebody saying, "Oh my God," like short attention spans and all that, and obviously there's truth to that. I think work harder. Like I think it's like there's so much room to do more with your content. There's still so much room to like innovate that. You could earn their attention. And a lot of times people say production value. Or what does that mean? It just means really respecting the people's eyes, like with the visuals, and their ears with the audio and the conversation that's happening.
Yeah.
And so, we take that to heart quite a bit.
Yeah, it's interesting because I forget how many YouTube zillions of people are watching podcasts on TV now.
Yeah,
but it's a significant amount, and I think there is that thing about the connection. Like you can be making food, and then you can see John bring out the chart and look up and get that connection again. And then like once the chart's on, you can go back to cooking until the next really interesting things come up, and you can go back and forth. You can get out of your car, go into your living room, go onto your phone, go for a walk, and it comes with you.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've been really surprised. So I've been working in podcasting for a long time. I've been surprised at how much growth we're seeing on Living Room. So, I think we published a stat at the end of last year, 400 million hours of consumption of podcast content on Living Room devices. Now as a user, it's really kind of amazing to be able to see the podcaster, and it sort of gives you this other dimension of podcasts that I haven't had. So, a bunch of my favorite podcasts, they've been around for a long time. Some of them have been audio only, and now they're embracing video. They're on YouTube, and I can watch them on Living Room. And to your point, like, if I start watching it on the Living Room device and then I need to go, take my kids out or go walk my dog, that podcast can come with me. And I think that's one of the really sort of like magical parts of podcasting, and one of the unique things of YouTube is that you can engage with YouTube content everywhere, right? On every device, whether it's in my car or whether it's on a speaker or whether it's on a television or obviously on a mobile device or a laptop. And I think in part that's what's driven the growth of podcasting on YouTube is really unique in that. We have that video component as well as that audio component. We're on the devices where users are. And, frankly, if you're on the internet, you're probably on YouTube. And so if you're a podcaster, if you're not on YouTube, in some ways you're really missing out on this fire hose of audience. You still have to do all the work, and you have to make amazing content that, connects with your audience. But YouTube sort of is that front door that is an incredible opportunity that RSS, frankly, never really was.
It's a force multiplier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one other thing, just building off what you said, there's a lot of like podcasts that have been audio only that are going to video. To me, that is one of the most encouraging things. And I won't name names, but there's certain people who have had big shows and now they're going to or have audio only and they've started video podcasts. And honestly, they have a lot of room for improvement. And I say that because like I think they'll get there, but also as creators, it's one of the most encouraging things that you could see somebody starting on video,
yeah.
and you could be like, wait, let me take a lot of the stuff that apply to a typical YouTube video and try to bring it to a podcast, because it is still so early. Like when you see people who, have come from like traditional backgrounds or like bigger studios or have had big audio audiences trying to learn video, it's like they're coming to New York City for the first time and they're trying to make it. And to me, that's still happening right now.
Yeah.
And it's just so exciting because I think there's so many ways to innovate by adding video to like up the quality. And that level is not as saturated as people may think.
Yeah.
I think that's true. I think what's interesting is YouTube is still working to make it even better, including shows. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so if you're a creator and you have a podcast, you have a show, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that the Living Room team is really invested in is like, how do we make your show on YouTube really shine on televisions? The same way that a show on Netflix looks amazing, we want YouTube content, including your favorite podcast show, to look amazing on television devices. And so, that's an area where we're really working on improving the UI experiences. We're working to improve the consumption experiences, particularly around discovery of that content. Podcast shows are episodes. You might want to listen to the next episode. If you're engaged in that true crime podcast, you want to, work through the sequence and, kind of listen to the next episode and, potentially binge watch, listen that podcast. And we really want to support those kinds of journeys.
So whether you're like Michelle Khare or Alexandra Cooper, you can set this up as a playlist, and then we will take it from there and make it look like the kind of show that it should be on television, or what people expect a show to be on TV.
Right. That's right.
And what about charts?
Yeah, so we're super excited. One of the things that people ask us all the time is like, hey, what are the most popular podcasts on YouTube? So we've just released charts in the US. We have the top 100. We're really excited about adding in more chart types, expanding that to other regions. And we also have been investing in improving the podcast destination page. On the left nav on YouTube, there's these different categories, and there's a podcast category in there. We have done a major revamp there to highlight new podcasts and help users kind of find and discover podcasts that they might not otherwise get recommended.
My journalist brain is firing. Can I ask a few clarifications that I imagine a lot of creators may be wondering? What the charts, is this the top 100, top 10, top 50? How many podcasts are we talking about?
Yeah, so our initial chart will be the top 100.
U.S. only.
U.S. only.
Yeah. And do you debut this once a week? Are you going to update it, or
every Wednesday it will get updated, and it will. We're looking to expand it out.
This is the first time you're talking about it publicly?
Yes.
Wow. So podcast
depending
charts,
on when you watch.
Depending on when you watch.
If it's a year from now, you'll.
Exactly.
Wait, okay, so top 100 podcasts in the U.S. The next question, I imagine a lot of creators may be wondering, what are the metrics? How do you get on this chart? What are you guys looking at?
Yeah, so we're primarily looking at watch time.
Watch time, okay.
And we think of that as what are people actually watching and engaging with.
Yeah, I love watch time. We use that for A/B testing as well, because in order to watch, they have to click, but in order to build up time, they have to retain. Mm-hmm. And I think the best experiences that drives a lot of satisfaction is making something compelling that people want to watch for a significant period of time.
And is it a velocity of watch time within a given week, or what are the things? Because I know watch time obviously is so important across YouTube.
He's trying to get on the chart right now.
Well,
exactly.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot
we're
of
gonna make it
creators.
hard to
I'm
game.
just trying to make it so the comments are I'm just thinking about the comments. What's the velocity of what are other things that creators can do to try to get on the charts other than trying to make quality content?
Yeah, it's primarily quality content, to be honest, and it's primarily watch time driven. I think if you think about other charts, they have a bunch of different ways that sort of are kind of opaque to the creator to get on those charts, and maybe there's somebody who puts their thumb on the scale. That's really not what we're trying to do.
Also, some going from 1 to 100 is way easier than going from 100 to 200, and so some are artificially or intentionally predisposed towards new entries.
For sure. But really what we're trying to represent is what are people watching on YouTube.
Yeah. And is it one big chart, or we're talking about the top 100 sports podcasts, the top 100 true crime podcasts? Is it by vertical right now, or just one big general?
It's one big podcast or one big chart for now. And one of the things we're thinking about is where do we take charts from there?
So, wow.
Yeah.
This is
so
big.
if you have ideas,
leave them, or just leave them in the comments.
Yeah.
Steve will read and see the most popular.
Yeah. Will there be a badge underneath the videos, kind of if you're on trending, it says number 1, number 2 on trending if you're on the podcast chart?
Not yet, but that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I got my PM hat on now.
There you go.
People screenshot.
Are you coming back to YouTube?
That.
Is that
I'm more on the creator side now, but I know people get stoked to see that, and it's as much about being on the chart, and I know that will move the needle a lot for creators who want to get guests or want to get certain sponsors, in addition to obviously having that be a stamp of look how much watch time and look how much popularity our show is getting.
And it's nice to see, because of all the investment YouTube is putting out there, that it's taking on these other facets of what people expect from podcasts.
Yeah, we really also just want to celebrate the creators, right? And the people on the charts have invested a tremendous amount of time and energy into building audiences on YouTube and creating compelling content. And it's a great opportunity for us to celebrate them. I think we're also looking at ways to celebrate other creators and smaller creators, and how do we help drive discovery? How do we help, new shows find audience? And so that's part of the investment we're making with the destination page updates we're making. And we really just want to highlight podcasts as podcasts and help them really shine within the context of the YouTube ecosystem.
Give them an amazing home.
Yeah.
Nice.
Steve, John, thank you so much for joining me. This has been absolutely fantastic.
Oh, thank you. And sharing like the big news about podcast charts. I feel like people are going to go wild over that. It's amazing. And thank you. Thank you so much for hosting this conversation.
We managed to do it, a podcast with podcasters and a podcast,
About a podcast.
PM on podcasting.
It sounds like you got a new show in the works. You know?
Let's do it.
In a PT
Podcast.
Cruiser, just more alliteration. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you both so much.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Pleasure.
Thank you.